Hello, I'm Gwen Sutton. How are you today?
Hey, how's it going, guys? This is Calvin. How are you doing today? I'm doing fine, by the way, Gwen.
Good. This
Um,
is,
well, what you gonna say?
I said this is October the 8th, and are you aware that this is Breast Cancer Month?
Yep, very much aware. The last 6 to 8 years, they've done a pretty good job of pushing that out there for everybody to do breast cancer awareness for the month of October.
Well, that's what I've been doing. I've been working on breast cancer awareness, and I thought tonight I would integrate the process of mammogram into the photography information.
Alrighty, that's definitely something we can enjoy learning and listening from you today. Tonight, wanted to go ahead and do a little quick review. Last week we talked about moon shots. And at the time, I was not aware that we was experiencing a lunar moon that would be occurring within the next week. So this morning at 5:25 a.m. Central, we experienced a lunar eclipse with the sun, the moon, and the earth all lined up together. I personally did not make any time to get up early and go out and take pictures of it, but if you look online, you can find a lot of people who have done just that and was able to capture some pretty stunning pictures. Gwen, I know that you made an opportunity to go out there. How did your pictures go?
They came out fair. I was surprised that it was a bit more difficult to capture the red moon than when I'm normally shooting the clear moon or the white moon shots, or even those that come out a bit goldish. I don't have a bit of a problem with that, but I did find it more difficult to get a good clear shot of the red moon. I took pictures the night before without a problem. They came out very clear. And then I got up this morning about 6 as the eclipse was in the process and started taking shots with two different cameras. And I noticed, whoa, wait a minute, I'm not getting this clear focus like I normally would. And so I had to adjust the settings on the camera and use the tripods in order to get a good shot. And later on this morning, as I was looking, I saw where NASA had posted a shot. And when I looked at the shot that NASA had, then I didn't feel so bad because it was a little better than what I had, but I had expected it to be a lot better than what I had shot.
Right. Yeah, moon photography is kind of tricky because you only have so many hours in the day to actually work on it. And it also depends upon what your cloud cover is like on how much time you actually have to work on it. So you can actually get an opportunity where you can have just a few minutes to take a moon shot, or you can get the opportunity where you can have several hours. The moon does move, so you can start out with the moon in your visible space, and then in the course of 30 minutes to an hour, it can go out of your visible space as well. So practice, 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 and also being prepared to adjust. This is where I always come up with having your default settings for prepared to take it and learn how to quickly adjust it as necessary. The differences between the manual cameras and the point and shoots is that the point and shoots, you're not allowed the opportunity to actually make adjustments on your camera. So you can't adjust always the focal point of what you want to focus on, or you can't adjust your shutter speed, or you cannot adjust your aperture or anything else like that manually because it's all part of a point and shoot functionality to make life easier. So in these type of scenarios that we're dealing with that are anomalies, it becomes harder to really get better at doing it. Whereas when you have a SLR or some type of camera that gives you manual controls, you can adjust those different functions and tweak them and play with them on the fly. One of the beauties of dealing with digital is that you can see almost instantly and adjust versus film shooting and hoping that you got it right. One of the things that I always kept in mind, I had a friend named Michael Ash who actually has done a lot of moon pictures. He gave me advice that the moon is actually pretty bright and it moves pretty fast. So you have to have that faster shutter speed, 1/125th or faster, in order to capture a good, crisp, sharp vision of the moon. And then also you don't want to shoot long shutter speeds because the moon moves so quickly, you're going to start to catch that blurring effect with it.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, on a manual camera, I make those adjustments and make sure that I don't go any slower than 1/125th of a second. I actually try to shoot 1/250th or even 1/320th of a second. And then I'll try to adjust my aperture, which how much light is allowed in there. But I try not to go too sharp with the aperture because even though the moon is so far away, I still want to have some depth of field involved with the moon. And if I make it too sharp of a setting, get more light in, I can lose some of that depth of field. So if my focus is just slightly off, I can wind up having a very disfocused picture of the moon versus having a sharp picture of the moon.
Right, right. That's all good information I'll take into account.
So getting out there late at night, early in the morning, all those builds up on your experience and your comfort levels with adjusting it. And one thing I always tell people is that no matter how good of a shot that you can get with a point and shoot, you can always get something better with a manual because the manual will allow you to adjust it. It will allow you to tweak it and change it how you see fit. With manual, you can allow more light or allow less light, and you can control that from each shot. Whereas point and shoot, the camera is actually making up all the lines for you, or not necessarily point and shoot, but the automatic mode, the camera's making up all the decisions for you on how to present a well-compositioned picture. So it's not actually able to capture the mood that you actually want to present in your picture.
Okay.
So that was fun. It was cool. Unexpected with my choice last week, but it turns out it was pretty good. See if I can come up with any other great predictions to talk about here.
That was right on time.
Alrighty. So I know that you wanted to take a few minutes out to talk about breast cancer, and with this being Breast Cancer Awareness Month, what information do you have to share, and how does it tie into the art of photography?
Well, one thing, I've been out and about talking with different people. I've taken quite a few number of pictures. I went to WECT TV Channel 6 in Wilmington, and they have what they call a pink pack. And what that is, it's a packet of information about breast cancer, men and women, and what you can do for help for it. It has inside this pink pack, it has an ink pen, an emery board, written information, how to do self-breast exams. There it has a pink ink pen. It has the pink emery board, a little card that talks about choices and convenience of what hospitals are in this local area. Also, if someone wants one, you can contact Mary at WECT.com, and she will mail one to you no matter where you're located at. There is a breast care self-exam guide, and I talked with the radiologist about male exams. How would they examine a male as far as doing a mammogram? And they told me they would do basically the same thing as they would for a woman. They would do a self-breast exam, then they would go to a mammogram. If a mammogram was not possible, they could do an MRI or a CAT scan, or actually they could do another type of diagnostic screening.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised to know that they could still do the mammogram with the man, because I asked specifically, what about a tight chest man that didn't have a lot of breast tissue? And they said actually they could probably do a mammogram on a male even clearer than they could with a woman. That was surprising for me. Mammogram has gone digital now compared to what it was 10 to 15 years ago, and I'm glad to know that. I myself went today to have a mammogram done. When I went in, of course you do your paperwork and go in, and then they take you to the radiology department, and that's where it coincides with photography, because a mammogram is basically a deep photograph of your tissue. And so it's just called a mammogram. It's just like with an MRI. It's basically looking into your body, making an image, which is the same thing that a photograph does. It makes an image. So that's how you tie in the breast cancer exam, the mammogram, the radiology, along with photography, because it's just another form of photography.
Mm-hmm. I noticed with your pink pack that you displayed there that they actually tied in the pink ribbons and made those the P's on it. Good tie-in, good association there with that. Yep, most forms of radiological work are actually photography that's being performed. Once you get skilled at it, you'll start to learn and understand the different aspects of the body in regards to everything that it takes to capture that image. And just like with photography, you need more power in order to shoot something clearer, to go deeper, things of that nature. So some of the aspects of photography directly translate over there with the different functionality types, but radiological work is definitely a variation of photography that we know it. They have the ability to see through the body versus what the camera seeing of the body. But it's still an image that is created as a direct result of the work that's being performed.
Right. Another form that they said they could do would be an ultrasound on a man or a woman if they had difficulty with the regular mammogram.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ultrasound. That technology has come a long way. A lot of the ultrasounds are not actually photography based that I've seen. That may have changed because the ultrasound is more of a live thing that's done, more of a video capture live instead of an actual image being captured.
And the ultrasounds are done more on a male than they would be on a female, depending on the circumstances. As I said, I had my mammogram today. It was not as painful as it has previously been because technology has changed. They've updated the equipment, which I was very glad to know that. It did not take long. All could be done within about, once it starts, within 15 minutes, you're finished. And they'll soon give you a call or send out your email or a notification that everything hopefully is well. I decided to go ahead and do that because I hadn't had a mammogram in a while, and talking with different ones, I said, how could I encourage someone else if I hadn't done it myself so I would know what to talk with them about? And in setting up my appointment, the young lady said, well, she hadn't had one, and she said, well, you've encouraged me, so I'm going to go ahead and get one, her schedule. And then when I was going down the hall today, I stopped and talked with two young ladies, and neither one of them had had one, and they worked right there at the hospital, and they promised me faithfully they were going to go right then and schedule their mammogram. So if we're able to encourage and help at least one person to have preventive care, I was happy about that.
Yep. It's definitely important to properly take care of ourselves. A lot of times we get caught in the hustle and bustle and we have relatively good health, and we don't stop and think about, let's just do a checkup to make sure everything is fine, to potentially catch things in advance. Simple things that could be done like breast cancer awareness and breast checkups. There's also other things that we can do, such as proper eating, proper health, because if we don't eat properly and we don't maintain our proper health, we won't be able to get out there and do the photography things that we like and we love. So it's definitely a worthy investment. Few hours, a week to a few days out of the year where we take the time out to go get ourselves checked out from the top to the bottom of our bodies. So you want to get your mental health, you want to get your physical health, all those things checked out, because at the end of the day, we only have one of those that we're aware of that we're going to be able to use. So it's definitely important to take that in consideration.
Okay. There's a lot of online information. I looked up some today about the male tale of a lump and mammogram, and how one older gentleman went through the procedure. He was just he had an itch one day and scratched and realized that, oh, something doesn't feel right. And he immediately contacted his doctor, and the doctor scheduled him for a mammogram, and he was very shocked that he was going to have to go through that. And so men need to be aware to do a self-breast exam on themselves.
Yep.
Speaking of medical exam, have you had yours?
Yep.
Okay.
Good to go see my doctor pretty frequently.
Very good. That's basically what I've been doing with the breast cancer awareness between Google and Facebook, and on my own site, GwenSutton.com. I've been talking about it there, and that was how I wanted to tie in tonight my photography and what's going on out in the communities.
Awesome. Nothing wrong with that. Always appreciate a different perspective being shared. Talking about health, out in the Dallas, Texas area, there was recently a patient diagnosed with Ebola, and potentially other patients may be actually coming forward. In Spain, they just recently found 2 nurses that was diagnosed with Ebola that was came from missionaries in Africa. They came back home to Spain, and then 1 nurse came down with Ebola that was treating those nurses. So it's definitely something. Invest in taking care of yourself. Is to be very cautious when dealing not just with in the public, but also dealing with people in your home, with the spreading of germs, the spreading of bodily fluids. Something to consider and keep in mind is that, yes, the guy from Texas did die today. I was going to get to that part. But it's important to take the precautions with bodily fluids, whether you're dealing with out in public or you're dealing out in your home. Properly wash your hands. You know, everybody got caught up over the last decade and a half or so of using Purell and hand sanitizers and things like that. These items are good when you don't have soap and water available, but if you do have soap and water available, you need to utilize soap and water, not hand sanitizer. Hand sanitizer is actually not a replacement for cleanliness. It helps you with getting rid of common germs and things of that nature, but it's not really geared towards taking care of all the heavy stuff that's out there. So wash your hands in soapy water. Make sure that soapy water that you're washing it in is warm water or hot water, and take proper precaution. You know, sneezes, do your best to cover up. If you get any type of bodily fluid, such as saliva, such as blood, do your best to clean up. If you have open sores, do your best to properly treat those and clean them and care for them, because if you don't take care of your health, you won't be able to continue to be a photographer, because your health will decline on you, and eventually your health will end for you. So that's my little spiel, my little public service announcement about proper cleanliness and being careful. There's a lot of things out there that is not good, and some of these things are making their way into the United States. Hopefully we can keep a good handle on that and keep it out of the United States, but not everybody is in the United States. So people that are outside of the United States, you want to do the same thing. Take good precautionary measures. You know, nothing is impossible to stop, but if you take good proper steps in trying your best to protect yourself, you'll do a great job of protecting your family as well.
Something else along those same lines is being a little bit more careful when we eat out at public restaurants. A lot of times it's good that there are reviews about different restaurants as far as how clean they are. One thing, when I go out to eat, I like to stop by the bathroom. The bathroom is a good indicator of the rest of the cleanliness of that restaurant. If you go in and that bathroom is filthy, it's just walk on back out the door, because then that kitchen is going to be the same way. And look at what type of grade that they have. Look at the people that are there. Are they clean? Are the waiters properly addressed? Are they just look at their mannerism and see how they do? Are they going from the trash to the checkout counter? And money is, money, even though we want it, is very German. Is the cash register attendant working the food line? All of that, just be a little extra cautious now as to what we do.
Yep, completely agree. Um, Now I want to go ahead and shift gears a little bit and get into some photography discussion. Um, I'm looking to get suggestions and I'm looking to get feedback from people with different type of videos that they actually want to use. Um, what type of videos would you guys like to see done? Different things you want to learn. I currently have Photoshop CS6. Most of the things that I can do in that tool you can utilize in each one of those. So I want you guys to take advantage of those opportunities for me being able to show you how to do different things. I can show you my way, I can write out the different ways, and I can make a video for you to help you be able to get better at doing different things that you're interested in. My next video I plan on making is going to be a workflow video with how I use my Canon, from taking the picture to getting the picture off of the camera to the computer, from getting in front of the computer into any type of retouching that I want to do to my final presentation. So I'm going to create a little video with that. It's going to be about 10 minutes long, maybe 15. But if you have any suggestions, feel free to post on this event or make comment onto the profile page, or if you're in the Click, Snap, Capture community, make a post in there and bring it about, and let's go ahead and start building and growing it, because this is all about everything that we want to do. Now, one thing I have a question that came from Ms. April Smiley. She provided a link to the cdc.gov/features, FEATURES/hand washing. And on this one, it gives an opportunity for us to learn about proper hand washing techniques. I think that's very important. I'm definitely glad that she was posted that question for us so that we can talk about it on the air and help educate people on the ability to properly clean their hands. Because without a clean body, you're not going to be able to get out there and take those great pictures of the sunsets or the moon pictures or the lunar moons or even those eclipses.
Okay.
All right, so also anytime you're watching a video, go ahead and ask your questions. You can type them on into the audience section where you can ask a question, or you can post them down in the comments section and I'll be able to answer those questions, not actually during the Hangout, but I'll be able to answer them later on. And this is all about you guys. So anytime you're watching it, so if you're not able to watch it live on Wednesdays nights, you watch it on a Saturday or a Sunday or even the following Tuesday, or even watch it as a recap beforehand and you get a question that come up, feel free to share it. I'm here to help you out as much as I can. If I don't have the answer, I will dig out the answer and provide it for you. And then also feel free to suggest any type of videos you want to see. Photography, there's many different ways of doing things. I do my best to try to show people more than one way to do anything it is in particular, because one way is not always going to be the best way, because the best way is going to be what's most comfortable for you to do and what makes you feel the best about doing it. So feed the questions on in. I'm here to help. Gwen?
I'll do what I can to assist also. I spoke with a young lady today, and she said something along those lines. She wanted to set up a link where she could send us a picture for us to help her enhance her photography. And I told her, let's get going with it. I invited her to join, and so hopefully she will be with us next week.
Okay, and also invite her to the community. I'm going to create a separate category and I'm going to call it Hangout Critique or Hangout Review. I like review better than critique. And anybody that wants their pictures to be reviewed on the Hangout can post it into that category, and I can bring up that category and show the pictures with a screen share here, and then we can discuss that picture and what we think about it. But one thing I want people to do when they ask for a review of their pictures and us to provide feedback on it, I want them to provide what type of feedback it is that they're looking for. Are they looking for lighting? Are they looking for depth of field, tonality, those different things? That's important, because even though you may honestly feel like you don't know what you want to do to make it better, it's good to get an opportunity for people to provide you direct feedback for what you're looking for. So, I run into scenarios with people who ask for, hey, what do you think of this picture? and I'll comment, oh, it may be too dark, or it may be too bright, or oh, the focus is kind of off. And their typical response is, oh, that's what I wanted, that's what I intended. And to me, it's like, okay, so what feedback do you want? Oh, I don't know. What can I do to make it better? And make it better is a really relative concept, because some people have different things that they nitpick, and that's their specialty and where they want to critique, and they're going to always talk about it. That could be lighting. It could be composition. It could be always wanting to look at pictures and see if the hands are cut off and then always complain about it. But if the intention is to cut the hands off, you can complain that it's not a standard and it's not a rule, but I can tell you that's my intention, so I'm happy with it. So it's always important to have at least a direction that you want to point the people in and what you want to create. You don't have to know everything that you want, but you can always look at a picture and say, okay, I'm not really sure about the lighting, or is it too busy in the background, or should the person be doing something different? Do you like to smile or do you like to not smile? So a lot of times people feel like they don't really know what they want, but then when you give them feedback, they know that they don't want that feedback. So it's like, well, what feedback do you want? So I always encourage people, when you show pictures off and you want people to give you feedback, help shape them into the direction that you want to go in with getting your feedback. That way you can get feedback that you actually feel is beneficial, because if you don't care about lighting, you know about lighting, you know that the picture is too dark, you just want to look at how the person is composed, and then you just give them the picture and say, hey, I want to critique on it, I want to know what you think. First thing I might do is, because I like bright pictures, is say, hey, it's too dark. Well, if that's your intention, then you have to let me know what direction you want to go in. That way I'm giving you beneficial, so you don't come back later and be like, oh, he told me stuff I already knew. It really wasn't important because I intended it that way. So that wasn't beneficial. So I want people to be empowered, and I want people to feel good about the feedback that they get and actually take that feedback and be able to say, you know what, that made sense. Or, hey, I got some more questions about it. What do you think about this? Can I shift the head from this way and get a different result, or maybe tilt the head down or tilt the head up, maybe at an angle? All those different things feed off of that original question, what can I do to make it better? So sometimes you got to get the juices going by just starting off with one simple thing. Do you like the head? Tilt it like this. Some people love pictures like this. Other people, they can't stand it. I'm a moderator of a pretty big community for a specific style of photography and a specific type of photography. And someone came back and said, no, that style of photography is so Canon in how you're doing it. You should update it and support something newer. And I'm like, at the end of the day, we have literally thousands of photography communities out there with anywhere from 50,000 on up. This community happened to have over 40,000 members now. When I started about a year and a half ago as a moderator, it's about 17,000 in there. So we've grown in the last year. But we have a specific type of photography that we want. And users that are not catering to it will remove their pictures out. And we have a rule that basically says that, hey, we remove pictures at our convenience. There's no rhyme or reason why, but we do have guidelines. And if it doesn't meet the guidelines, we remove it out. And we get a number of people who will comment out, why was my picture taken? And it's like, did you read the rules? And they'd be like, yep. And it's like, so did you know that your picture had this? And basically a direct line from the guideline. Oh, I didn't know that. And it's like, but you said you read the rules. So it's important to take the time to help guide yourself along with what you want. There's nothing wrong with being wide and open and being wild, but also learn the steps towards having that control and having that focus that you want so that you can capture what you want. Our ultimate goal as photographers is to improve from one shot to the next. And as long as we're just shooting wild, we're never going to allow ourselves to become more focused. We're never going to allow ourselves to become better. So pick something and run with it. Don't always try your best to include that one thing in every group of pictures that you do. Whether it be focusing on the body language, whether it be focusing on the focus, whatever it may be, master it by doing it in every group of pictures that you do, and then work on improving those techniques. You had anything to contribute there, Gwen?
Yes. Simple as with this picture that I have here. I've been working on making sure when I take a picture, I don't cut out body parts that are necessary and cropping it. I noticed when I had this one printed, half of his hand is gone, and I should have paid more attention to that because he's actually at an angle, and that part of his hand on the lower part that goes along with the flow, the direction of his stance, his pose.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've got to pay more attention to that. That goes right back when you said, well, if someone asks you if they want their picture reviewed, okay, somebody's going to look at this and say, well, you cut half his hand off. That takes away from the angle of the pose and sort of just stops everything instead of it a constant flow. And so from talking with you about that, I've noticed that. I've noticed to pay more attention to even the person's feet to make sure if that's necessary for that picture that I don't cut half the foot off of the picture.
Yep, that's one of the interesting things is that in all my years of doing modeling photography, one thing that I learned is that every aspect of the body controls the body language that's being presented. Even though you may not see it in the photo, you will see the end result in the photo. And what I mean by that is, if I'm taking a headshot of a person, headshot is exactly what you see right here inside this webcam, shoulders on up, and focus directly at the camera. That's a headshot. And I can turn this way, this way, this way, all kind of different ways. But depending upon how my body language is how my headshot will actually turn out. So if I'm slumping or slouching over, or if I'm stooping, all these different body languages will be conveyed in my headshot even though you don't see it. So you can see attitude, you can see tone, you can see demeanor inside of a picture without seeing the rest of the body that goes with it. And there's been a lot of studies done, and it goes as deep involved with the government. They actually do a lot of studies, and it's people who specialize in body language. Holding your arms one way versus another. Closed arms, means don't approach me. Open arms mean I'm approachable. So there's all these different little subtle things that actually can come across that we don't stop and think about. So every time I do my opportunity to take pictures with people, I like to tell them, hey, you got to shake your body out. And they look at me kind of honest, like when you shake your body out, you start to release all your rigidness that you have built inside of yourself, and you start to loosen up. So now your formal headshot starts to come out. Your angle of body starts to come about. All these different things start to come about once you start to release and relax your body so that you can radiate your smile and not just your body language. Headshots can be like this. There's all kind of different things that can go on with it. So taking the body language is very important that we have to convey with people when we're taking pictures of them. Don't be afraid to tell them to shake it out. And some people will look at you crazy. Some people actually laugh out of it. But that starts to change their demeanor and their tone and everything, from the placement of their feet, from the way their hips is set, to the way their waist is turned, the way their shoulders is sitting, to even how their head is sitting on there. And the most natural, beautiful smiles come in pictures when people actually feel warm. Their body is presenting it. No matter how great my smile looks, if my body is not conveying that same image behind the smile, people convey it. They're not going to get the same feeling out of it. So I tell people all the time, your body language is very important when it comes to taking pictures, because at the end of the day, your body picture and your mood is conveyed in the pictures.
Okay, that's something I'll take into consideration also.
So when you're dealing with people pictures and you're dealing with personalities, it is very important to interact with those people, talk to them, engage them, find out more about them other than how much you're paying me for these pictures. Find out how their day is going, what made them happy, are they excited to take these pictures. There's so many little small chit-chats and so many little small conversations that we can have with people that can actually make their day better, that can actually, do that human interest, that care that we're typically missing because we're always busy with everything that goes on with life. So, take the time to just share a little bit of love, share a little happiness, a little warm and fuzzy per se. Chit chat goes a long way a lot of times, because we're all busy in our hustle and bustle of life. And someone taking the time to ask us, how was our day? It means a lot because it's conveyed with genuine sincerity. And that genuine sincerity actually attracts people in to want to share how they're feeling. And sometimes it's a-okay to let people vent because they just need to get that raw emotion out so that they can have a better opportunity to feel better. Because when we're taking pictures, we're not capturing, um, we're truly capturing a moment. We're capturing an image of life that can potentially be around forever. So we want to capture people feeling good, being good, and enjoying life. There's nothing wrong with capturing those raw emotions of sadness, those raw emotions of pain, suffering, but there's times and opportunities for those things. There's one big photography industry out there called wedding photography. Everybody go, not everybody, a lot of people participates in that, and they want to have great moments of their wedding. But there's also another industry out there that's very small and very well known. People go out and taking pictures of funeral services and capturing, those last moments of people cherishing the loved ones. And even with that, you can capture the emotion of joy and happiness that at that moment in time of their grief, they're not actually being able to see that they're happy for their loved ones going on to a better place. That feeling of joy and happiness because they're caught with the grief. But by properly capturing that moment for them in time, that's something that they can look back at as 6 months or they can look back at a year or 5 years and have fond memories of their loved one because their loved one has a place in their heart. So it's always a time and a place for capturing everything, and working with people to capture those time and places is definitely a learned art that more people can incorporate if they take the time to.
I've actually done some funeral photography, especially with the military, and I won't ever forget the caption.
What was that? All right, looks like Gwen froze up there. Um, while her connection comes back up, we'll go ahead and keep talking. Um, but when it comes into dealing with capturing grief and things like that, you have to handle them with the same care that you do with someone in a moment of happiness because you're not going to capture necessarily a great big happy smile on them. You may capture a smile of love or a smile of kindness, a different type of smile, a different type of happiness that's going to be presented in regards to that. So don't hesitate to take the opportunity to use your gift as a photographer to actually give back to people in ways that you never thought before. When I lived in New Orleans for a couple years, I was 19 at the time and 20, and I had an opportunity to see that they celebrated life differently when life was passing. Um, I was raised with celebration of life as always being a moment of grief and pain and suffering when the passing of someone occurred. But in looking at how they celebrated in New Orleans, they actually celebrated the life of the person in a joyful manner. They had what was called a second line band. And I don't know if anybody actually went out and took pictures during that time, but I think that that would have been a welcome addition to the opportunity because capturing the emotion of joy and happiness is something that makes photography wonderful for me. I don't really enjoy going out and taking pictures of the moon and buildings and natures and things like that. Those things are great. I'm fortunate enough that I have the skills from years working that I can go out and capture relatively decent pictures of these different environments. So when I get a chance to go out and do it with other people, I take it. And I like to give people tips and tricks on how to improve different things that they're doing because I have knowledge that I feel comfortable with sharing because I have experience behind it. And I don't like to tell people that you have to do it this way because honestly, there's more than one way to do it. I like to show people different ways of doing different things because, unfortunately, not knowing anything or knowing everything is something that none of us is privy to. Um, no one ever knows everything because things are always changing, adjusting, and adapting. And no one ever knows nothing because we all started out learning some start. But I like to share what I have because sometimes it can enhance and improve other things that people are doing because they didn't think about it, or they didn't know about it, or someone didn't take the time to actually discuss it with them. With my camera, one of the things that I had an opportunity to learn, I was in, there was a local lake out here, and I received my Canon DSLR. It was a 20D, and I was taking pictures and just taking pictures. And some of the guys were all online that I was in the different communities, and they was talking about going out and adjusting the camera settings. And somehow or another, I got into the settings on the camera, and I started moving things around. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. I can start shooting manual. I thought I knew what I was doing. And welcome back, Gwen. But I turned around and I set the setting on my camera. I didn't know what it was. And all of a sudden, I was taking all these green pictures, and I couldn't figure out why I was taking green pictures. And next thing you know, I go out to the lake hanging out with these photographers and directing these models in this lake taking pictures. And I get to chit-chat with some of the guys like, yeah, I can't figure out why I got these green pictures. Like, I have to go into Photoshop and change all of them and correct it. I really don't like doing all that. It's like I did something wrong. I don't know. They're like, oh, I know what you did. Let me see a camera. I handed it to the guy. He like, click, click, point, point. He's like, there you go. It's all fixed. He said, see, this is what you did. Blew my mind away. I had completely forgot I did that setting change and didn't know what the setting was for. But I had manipulated the RGB spectrum on my camera to basically color offset the pictures being taken. And in doing so, I didn't know that that was what I was doing. And it didn't go back to default, and all my pictures were green until this guy showed me how to do it. And from that point forward, I realized that I felt I knew what I was doing, but I really didn't know what I was doing because I couldn't figure that out, that basic thing, because no one had told me. So now I try to always help people out by giving tips and tricks and showing them different things on how to improve stuff, because at the end of the day, we don't know everything. We don't know anything. We know everything in between. So I share things not to be arrogant or to be egotistical, because I'm always learning things as well. But I share things for the opportunity to get other people to know more. That way they can be more confident, they can be improved, and hopefully this kicks off a light bulb to them that they can go tell someone else and kick off a light bulb to them about. You know, knowledge is power. So Gwen, now that you're back, let's go ahead and shift gears back to what you was talking about the military families and the grief pictures.
Yes, with a military funeral, at the graveside, you know, you have the bugle blowing, and then with the flag is folded a particular way. Each fold, it takes time. The two men, they have their job cut out for them, and at the end, it's presented to the family all nice and neat and folded. And in taking that, I took each shot of the fold of that flag, and as the officer spun around and presented it to the surviving spouse. And later on, I saw some of those family members, and they spoke at how happy that I had done it that particular way, because at the time they were in so much grief, they didn't really see what was going on. And so, like you were saying, there's all different sorts of photography, and that the funeral photography is expanding now, especially with the videos. They want the videos there. Even doing the funeral services now, they want pictures taken during the service. They want to show pictures of the deceased family member before the funeral, the pictures taken during the funeral. And all of that can be presented as a packet for the family afterwards, and just held aside until, you know, they've gone through some of that grieving process and can handle it. Because a lot of times they don't even know who's there, you know, in support of their family member.
Mm-hmm. Yep, there's so many different little things that can be captured, and I definitely feel like it's important to take the time to work with people to get a sense to present them with something that they didn't see or something that they was unaware of at that time, because at the end of the day, we really don't know about the joy and the happiness that's going through people's mind. You know, we don't really know that the burden that is rest upon their lives, because we don't walk a day in their shoes. We never will be able to. And honestly, the old saying, walk a day in my shoes to know what I go through, I don't think that's true, because truly, you have to walk a life in someone's shoes to understand how they feel at that moment in time. Because I can do exactly what you do at that moment in time, but that doesn't mean I have the same experience as you do to come to that same conclusion. So I think that that's important to keep in mind, that our perspectives are shaped by things that we've encountered or things that we did not encounter in our past. And sometimes we have to have more compassion and more understanding in being photographers with people. Um, just like we have lives and we have things that go right and go wrong, they do as well. And, some people can abuse our kindness, and some people make that kindness totally worth it. When I was shooting model photography, a lot of times I will shoot model pictures and everything goes totally awesome and great, and I have a great experience. And then I'll run into the next model, model B, and they would just basically drag me through the mud with anything and everything and getting the pictures done. And then I'll go model C and get the same thing, and then model D will come along and they won't even show up for a picture, and they'll just waste my time. And then I'll run into model E, who would just make everything completely worth it. And it's like, it was worth digging through the graveyards and digging through the ground and playing with the bugs and the rats through B, through C, and through D to make it to E. And that's a lot of times how I feel when it comes to photography. I deal with a lot of people that offer headaches in the past, but when I meet those one that make it right, they truly make up for everybody else that's been making it an annoyance in the past. So I have nothing really bad to say about models. I have nothing bad to say about individual people. I just have my own experiences with them, and sometimes it's not always as great as it could be, and who knows what was going on in their life to make it what it is. But hopefully everybody finds that opportunity to improve and make things better. But one thing I do have as a tip, and I have as encouragement for people, and it's not a model photography thing, it's photography in general. Um, get out, find someone who you're comfortable with, and get yourself some pictures done. If it's done once a year, that's a minimum that I would suggest, but I know a lot of people don't like to look at themselves. But every couple years, count it off however many years you want, 2 years, 3 years, 4, but get pictures of yourself taken, because it's nothing better of a feeling than to be able to look back on your past and see different things that trigger memory points for you, that bring about joy, that bring about happiness, that bring about, oh wow, what was I doing? It goes for haircuts, it goes for clothing choices, it goes for the type of cars that we have. We're riding a bus, whatever it may be. Get out there, get yourself something professionally done. With the influx of camera phones that's available now, with the influx of point and shoot cameras that are available now, more and more people are going out there and taking their own pictures, and continue that. Have a great time with it. But also, take some time and get yourself some professional pictures done, because the differences between the two will be night and day. But you don't want to get out there and overdo your professional pictures, but you don't want to underdo it either. I know some families that I've met that have children that's 10, 11, 15, 20 years old, and they'll tell me that they haven't taken pictures of the family pictures since the children were babies, or they've never taken children pictures with all their children together. And it saddens me, because you have opportunities to make those changes, and we just make those choices that they're not important at that moment. And then if the next moment comes and they're not important, and then it's not important, and then it's not important, the next thing you know, you went from having a baby that's several weeks old to being a grandmother with a child, with a grandbaby that's several weeks old. And you're tired and passionate. You're like, I don't even have no pictures of my baby when my baby was a baby. So I encourage people, get out there, make the opportunity. Peg it as a family tradition. Peg it as whatever you need to get it done. But capture your growth through years. Not only will your children enjoy being able to go back and look at those pictures, but you'll be able to look back and have some memories too. I look back at some of the few pictures that I have from my high school days, and I look at the hairstyles. And my sister, she's big for posting up old pictures on Facebook from her in her high school days and her teenage years. And I look at those pictures, I just find it amazing, and looking at how we've changed and how we've grown and how we've adapted and how we've adjusted. Heck, I look at myself sometimes and be like, whoa, I was kind of slim back then. I might be able to get back to that in another 20 years. But even so, looking down memory lane, it brings about a euphoric feeling sometimes. Um, I think back about memories from in junior high school when I broke my ankle. I wish I had pictures of myself then and how I was handling myself then. I look back at when I was in New Orleans and how did I look then and what was I doing back then and the people who I was hanging out with. Recently, I made a trip to California and apparently I looked the same as when I was in high school. Because I was waiting for the Carbonell line, and the guy at the Carbonell line looked at me and waved like I needed to come see him, and he was saying, "Hey, what's going on?" And I thought he was talking about my shirt. So I was like, "Hey, bowed my head, did a little hand nod, kept it going." So when I get up, he's still looking at me. He has someone in front of him, but he's still acknowledging who I am. So I let two people go ahead of me so I can go see the guy. And I was like, "Hey, what's going on?" Like, "You wanted me? Everything okay?" He like, "Yeah." He said, "You went to Tech?" And I was like, "Yep, 93." He like, "Yeah, I went there too." I didn't even recognize the guy. But he recognized me from, in the line and directed my attention. And I felt, a sense of sadness because I had disconnected myself so much from my high school classmates. But I felt a sense of pride that I look relatively the same, that people who remember me, they have an opportunity to recognize me in a crowd. And I felt good about that because that means that I haven't changed a whole lot over the years. With my mannerisms, I haven't changed a lot with how I dress, how I come across, and I felt happy about that. And I hope that I can continue that type of way of handling myself for years to come because I think I did a relatively decent job of becoming a man. And I hope that I'm instilling some of these same qualities in my son so that when he becomes my age, he can look back and a pretty good job of becoming a man himself. So I personally thank my mom for everything that she's done and everybody that's played a part in my upbringing to become an adult and put me in the position I am because all my choices was made based off of the information that I had available to me at that time. I can look back at some of those choices and feel like they was bad, and I can look back at those choices and feel like that was great. But all those different choices made me who I am today. And it helped me appreciate the art of photography and to create the love and this passion that I have in it. Because without those changes and those adjustments, I wouldn't be the photographer who I am now. And I honestly got involved with photography because of my mom. Little story, haven't really told a whole lot of people, so I will wrap it up at this point. But my mom had an art gallery that she had started by collecting a lot of black art, and she opened it up and she showcased nothing but black art. And it was from art pieces that was painted to variations of those paintings, created in seriographs or lithographs. And also it was sculptures and things of that nature. And she worked with local artists as well as artists from around the country. And that actually started the impression on me of being some form of artist. And photography was my art that I picked up. And I look at photography as an art and not just as a skill or a craft. Because what I strive to do with my photography is not just take a picture of a person, but to capture a moment in time that they can look back at and feel happy and joy. So that's my spill at the moment. And at this point, we got just a couple minutes left. So is there any other things that you want to talk about, Gwen?
Well, basically, going back to interacting with people, making them feel comfortable with themselves when taking pictures. When a person is so much more comfortable, they are more able to relax, and then that natural body image comes out instead of being a stiff or holding a particular pose. A relaxed pose, that inner happiness within that person can show through the picture. I like to go take a lot of landscape pictures, and I had posted some from the beach and some other places that I took. And a lady put up there on the picture that she was glad that I did because it reminded her of a moment in years past with her child, and that was good. My picture, she said, my pictures told a story, and that is what I want to be able to continue on with mine. They might not be as crisp and clear as someone else, but my pictures will give you an inner feeling of happiness. It'll bring about a good thought. And so I accepted that maybe that's the role that I'm to do, that I'll be able to interact with people and get them to relax and get them to have a photographic story. And that's what I'm leading towards that line, along with working with young people with the graffiti. I have come to really enjoy looking at the different aspects of graffiti because to see some of these young people take a can of spray paint and within 10 or 15 minutes you can see these ideas that they had and without any formal training. And eventually I hope to have a studio uh, art building that the young people will be able to come in and learn more of their talent. And so that's where I'm headed towards that gear right now.
Awesome. Totally cool. Giving back is typically done out of passion and it's typically done out of love. And when you love something, you typically have an opportunity to do better at it when it comes to giving. So I definitely encourage people that are interested in photography, soak it all up. If it becomes a labor of love for you, feel free to give it away as much as you can, as often as you can, because the love of the art truly transcends anything and everything. My ultimate goal is to um, pass out my skills and my knowledge to as many people as I can, and then at some point put my pictures out on display, and people look at the pictures and it reminds them of something about me. I don't necessarily need them to look at pictures and like, oh, that was a Calvin. Like a lot of artists does with their artwork, you can typically look at their work and tell what type of artist created it or who created it once you start looking at it for a long period of time. I don't want them to do that. I want them to look at photography and have them think of different points of me. How this brings about a thought of Calvin said this or Calvin that I want to do with photography. I want people to think about me in regards to what I trigger with them versus what I've taught them. Because if I share the information well enough, I feel that at the end of the day, people will start to think of you on a different level. And I want people to appreciate what they actually can do and not appreciate what I've done for them. Because what I've done for them is help teach them on how to be better at what they want to do, which is photography. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up a couple minutes early. Um, so for this week, I actually went out and took a couple pictures over the weekend, got some pictures of some sports, and I did take a picture of the moon last night. It was relatively early in the cycle of the moon, so I didn't capture any lunar moons or anything of that. But this weekend I have some busy plans going on. I have to move things around in my storage unit, so I won't be out taking pictures, but we also are supposed to have a 50% chance of rain. So going out and taking pictures will potentially be okay, but I have some headshots of one person that I need to go take, and they're probably going to be watching this video talking about don't say my name, but hopefully things will work out. I have a portable battery pack that I'm going to use, so I plan on bringing out one of my lights or two of my lights and plugging them into the portable battery pack and firing off some pictures and seeing how it goes. So hopefully I have an opportunity to have some fun with it. How about you, Gwen? Do you have any weekend plans?
Of course, I hope to be out doing some sort of photography myself. I've been working with models lately, doing headshots. I've also, oh yeah, I'm happy to say that I had in the Cameron Art Museum shot that I took down in Wilmington, down by the waterfront. The Cameron Art Museum has the state of the art, and I have a 24 by 36 size canvas print in an actual art museum.
Awesome. Congratulations on that. Feels good to get those big giant pictures and hold them in your hand and look at them, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It really does, and I thank you for all your help.
Awesome. Congratulations. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for this week. Next week, we're going to have some fun. Stay tuned. Look forward to having more participation from you guys and having more fun. Thanks. Goodbye.
Bye.